We are the National Disability and Carers Card Scheme, and we're interviewing interesting people about their lived experiences of disability and caregiving. So let's jump in. Hello, and welcome back to the National Disability and Carers Card Scheme podcast. And today we are speaking to Dom, who has some very interesting experiences of life as a carer that he is going to share with us. And I hope you find this episode useful. So let's jump straight into it. When did you first think about becoming a carer?
I had just finished school and I hadn't actually thought at all about becoming a carer. But a friend of a friend told me that there was somebody fairly local that needed a carer. And my first thought was, it's not for me. I can't really see myself doing that. I like to think I'm a nice, caring person, but I just thought it's not really something that I can see myself being able to do every day. And it's a big responsibility. So it was just for one person, one lady. And as soon as I went for the trial day, we just clicked. You know, we got on, and I grew to realised that it wasn't really a job. Even though it was, it didn't feel like a job. More just kind of hanging out with a friend. And she became a very good friend over the years. I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to do that, because it just gave somebody the opportunity to do things that they weren't able to do by themselves. And I know that the lady and her family were very grateful for my role, but I was so grateful for having the opportunity and, you know, being able to live that life with her. So
I think a lot of people will relate to that feeling of it's a job but it's not a job, probably.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
even unpaid carers who don't receive remuneration, they might feel similarly.
Yeah, I'm sure, because I was quite involved with the family. Obviously, with the lady I looked after lived at home, and her family were always about, you know, she had a great family, and obviously they looked after her as well. You know, I think for unpaid carers as well, you still get the experience of helping somebody, whether it's your mother or your sister or brother. And I just think it's rewarding, but not in a kind of, I need the reward. It's rewarding in the sense of the experiences that you have and the experiences that you get to share with the person that you care for. Quite often you probably get to spend more time with a friend or family member that you're caring for than if they didn't need care. There's another aspect to look at.
Yeah, that's a kind of a bonus, I suppose.
Yeah. You
said at the beginning that there were aspects that you were worried about maybe, or you thought wouldn't be for you at the start. What sort of things were they?
Mostly personal care. As an 18-year-old boy, you know, it being suggested to me that I might go into this job where every aspect of personal care was involved, and I just thought something that I just really can't see myself doing. But you get over that very quickly, because you realise everyone needs that level of personal care, including yourself, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about, it's nothing to be scared about, it's just life, it's just a way of life. And caring for somebody who can't do these things for themselves, you realise it's a necessity. And I think you just have to embrace that as part of the role of being a carer, because otherwise it's going to make everyone involved feel uncomfortable about it. And I think not something that should be an issue. And I suppose I was young, but I grew up very quickly in my way of thinking in that. So.
And what were apart from the personal care, you said that there were things that she was then able to do that she wouldn't have been able to without a carer. So what were some of those other things you did?
We had some amazing days out. She was a very keen traveller and loved different cultures. We occasionally went on trips abroad, and in day-to-day life, we would maybe just say, should we go to the beach today? We were lucky enough to live not too far from the seaside, where you might ordinarily just jump in the car yourself and drive to the seaside for some fish and chips, or jump on a plane and go on holiday for a week, when it's not possible for you to do that yourself. Although I was experiencing those fun days out and the fun holidays myself, I very much viewed myself as almost the arms and legs that she didn't have herself anymore. Whatever ideas she came up with, however crazy they sounded, I just went with it, because I thought if I was in that position myself, I would be so frustrated if the only way that I could do something was with the help of somebody else and they said no. So wherever possible, I became a yes man. I thought, sounds crazy to me, but let's do it.
What were some of those things?
One day we decided to book a flight to Italy. It was something that we hadn't done before, certainly while I had been there. And we invited friends and family if they were able to come, and we just jumped on the plane and went. There was a lot more to it than that, but to simplify it, it felt like we were just jumping on a plane and going. Obviously, like I said before, it's the logistics of travel were not easy, but we found a way, and as we got to know each other, we built up an understanding of what was needed, and it at times it felt like verbal communication wasn't really necessary. It's, you could predict, like spending a lot of time with a best friend, for example. You get to know what they like, what they don't like, what they're going to say next, that kind of thing. And I think international travel for many disabled people is very challenging. And this was years before the National Disability Card was about. So we found the airports to be very helpful. My experiences of travelling through the airport with somebody in a wheelchair and somebody who needed a lift to get up to the aeroplane and things like that, I think as an employee of the National Disability Card, I think that has helped me to know what our customers might need and what the National Disability Card can do when you're at an airport. And I think it just makes the whole experience a lot smoother. And I think my time as a carer has helped me a lot in all aspects of my life. But it also helps me to understand the needs of many of our customers. Not least because as I've progressed through life, I myself have been diagnosed with disabilities. So I can now see both. I can see it from both sides. And I think that's very interesting. And
yeah, absolutely. I think the things you said about being a yes man and having that can-do attitude seems like that would be really important.
Yeah.
But I also think the element of when you said, obviously, everyone communicates in a different way. And for those that struggle with verbal communication, actually, there are so many other ways that when you get to know someone, you can kind of...
absolutely.
You can pick up on what they are trying to say.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. And so you said it kind of helped you grow up, I think, when you were that sort of young lad, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then you could carry some of those experiences through to your later life and experiences. So I guess what were some of the main learnings that you carried through, or ways that it changed your way of seeing the world?
I think, and it kind of sounds cliche, but I think it made me realise and appreciate what I had a lot more. And I don't mean material possessions and experiences and things like that. I just mean the very basic, what many people take for granted, which is you can jump out of bed in the morning, go and have a shower, go downstairs and make your breakfast and go out for the day. And just even at such a simple level like that, it made me really appreciate that I could do those things for myself.
Yeah, so giving you a sense of perspective, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you think that's something like any young person or any person could do with, maybe, that sort of experience?
Yeah, I think so. Because, I mean, we know there are many disabled people in society, and some disabilities are more obvious and some disabilities are invisible. I think having that experience makes you realise that if there's somebody walking slowly in front of you, or if there's someone taking a long time at the checkout in the supermarket, you can't assume that they're just being slow, for example. And I think you need to realise that they may have a disability that you can't see, but they struggle with every day.
Yeah.
And I think through my experiences, it opened my eyes a lot to that, because it's very easy to assume that everybody can do what you can do. But yeah.
And 24% of the population is disabled in the UK, which actually is a higher number than you might think.
Yeah.
And so, as you say, a lot of people might be going through life with various challenges that they need help or they need patience with from others. So it sounds like a very valuable thing. It would be nice to hear a couple of anecdotes. So was there like one really difficult time that you had as a carer, and maybe one really good time that you found really memorable that you'll take with you?
I think some of my favourite memories are probably not appropriate to share.
Is there a sort of way that you find humour in some of the hard experiences as well?
Yeah.
Does that alleviate maybe some of the challenges?
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but now that you say it, I think there definitely are. And you know, we had our own little jokes that we shared, and you know, apart from that reinforcing the bond that we had, I think it helped us both get through situations that were frustrating or difficult. And the lady that I used to look after couldn't speak, and the communication that we had was through lip reading. There were many times where I couldn't read it, and I didn't understand. We would persevere, and where many people might just write it off and say it probably doesn't matter, we'll move on to something else. I just felt that whatever you're trying to say is obviously important, so I would just make sure I would keep going until I could understand. And sometimes it would be, you think this must be very important to you, so I'm going to keep going until I understand you. And then it's something like, you've got yogurt on your jumper, or something that's not, you know, that you spend so long trying to decipher, and then it's just a little joke or something like that. And I think in many ways that would make it more, it would kind of reinforce the humour, the kind of funny side of whatever it is.
Yes, everyone communicates in their own way, but also everyone needs to express themselves. So I think having someone who's willing to persevere in understanding and acknowledging what you've expressed, even if it was hard to do so, that sounds incredibly valuable for that person.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think, so what skills do you think you developed through being a carer that have been useful later on?
Many people would disagree with this, but I think patience. I think it's definitely taught me to be more patient and empathetic, because, as I said earlier, I think that lots of people have their own struggles, and many of them are invisible. And I think it just makes you think more. I think, you know, in any situation, because I have ADHD, which by definition makes me on occasion very impulsive, and it makes my decisions very, very impulsive. And I think it helped a lot make me just pause a little bit and just think about a situation, you know, what might be needed in the situation, and not jumping to conclusions, not assuming anything. I set out to help somebody else, and they helped me. So that's the amazing thing about caring for someone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's really amazing to hear, especially for anyone who maybe is thinking about it and is worried about certain aspects, or has just been thrown into unpaid care because perhaps a family member has become ill or disabled or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's something really nice in that, I think. You mentioned ADHD, so would you like to share about kind of how that affects you, and again, any sort of challenges and good opportunities that come with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was diagnosed a little bit later in life as a young adult, and for years I knew there was something wrong with me, or I felt that there was something wrong with me, but I didn't know what. And I struggled with that a lot, and I didn't know whether I was coming or going. My thoughts were just a tangle in my head. Every word that was said just came into my head, and none of it really made sense because I wasn't eavesdropping, but you can't help it. And you'd hear a sentence over there, you'd hear a sentence over there, and it was very hard to focus on the person that you were actually having a conversation with. That was one struggle with it.
So
I think
a school playground, a party, a loud office would be difficult environment.
Definitely. Having not been diagnosed early enough in life, it was very difficult to manage that. But I think I found my own coping mechanisms because that's the only way I could keep my head straight. It's the only way I could kind of get through it. I was earlier, why did nobody notice this in me earlier? In many ways, the diagnosis later in life actually helped me to build my own coping mechanisms and self-soothe in situations where it was needed. And, sometimes I need to take time out. Sometimes I still need to take time out. But recognizing when that's needed I think if I was diagnosed earlier, it would have helped me a lot in my childhood, but I don't think I'd change it. I think I'm quite happy with how it's played out. So I think one of the other things with my diagnosis, be it earlier or later, I'm just, a lot of people, a lot of my friends and family said, how do you feel now that you've been diagnosed with ADHD? And I think they expected a response along the lines of, I'm not happy about it. I don't want to be given a label, that kind of response. But my feeling at the time was, that's such a relief, because it explained everything that I thought was wrong with me. And I now realise that there was nothing wrong with me. Just my brain is different to the majority of people. It's just another way of living. In terms of challenges and opportunities as well with my ADHD diagnosis, I found myself getting into trouble, not real trouble, but kind of social trouble, where I would interrupt people, or I would have to ask people to repeat things because I just switched off, my mind had wandered. Being able to say to people, friends that I've been friends with for years, and my family, being able to say to them, I have ADHD. It's not something I use as an excuse. It's not something that I hide behind. But I found that my support network has actually been very supportive and a bit more understanding. And rather than just giving me free rein to behave how I like, they've just kind of helped me along the way to understand if I perhaps interrupt or if I say something inappropriate at the wrong time. I think they kind of helped point out that's not really okay, or obviously there are different types of ADHD. My ADHD, it does kind of cause a lot of impulsivity in whether it's buying something online or expressing my opinion. And I think one of the things that has been very important for me to learn is to stop and think and then act, speak, or buy whatever it is I want to buy.
If you're enjoying listening to this interview, make sure to like this video, follow and subscribe, and hit the bell notification to get notified each time we make a new video. You can also head over to our websites where we have a whole range of helpful articles on living with a disability or being a carer. And for more bite-sized videos, follow us on Instagram or on TikTok. Okay, back to the interview. So for anyone who doesn't know much about ADHD, how would you explain it to an alien who landed on Earth and had no concept whatsoever?
That's very interesting. And obviously it manifests differently for different people. But my experience of ADHD is, even now at various points of talking to you, it's difficult to hold my focus. And just if something goes past the window, or if somebody says a word that reminds me of a sentence that I heard yesterday or something, it can totally send my train of thought away. And I might never find that track again. And that's one aspect of it. There's just thoughts flying around my head. It's a bit like if you've got a filing cabinet in your office and somebody knocks it over and all the papers fly out. You've got papers everywhere that relate to different things and you don't know where they go, and you pick one up and you think, right, okay, that makes sense to me. And then you find another one and think, oh, that's even more interesting. I'll read this one now. And it almost never gets filed away in the correct order. The other aspect of it, which is the kind of the hyperactivity side of it, I've learnt how to behave, which sounds obvious. Everybody learns how to behave, but I've had to learn how to conform to a behaviour that's expected that isn't comfortable. And frequently people are telling me to stop shaking my leg because it's shaking the whole bench. Or I remember in an exam at university, there was a guy at the table next to me, and I just thought, am I distracting this guy? And then again, that sent me off into another train of thought. And there's just so many struggles that come along with ADHD, but there are many, many positives as well.
Is it worse for you to be interrupted than anyone else then? Because once you're on a track, if you get sidetracked, you can't come back.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult for me to say that it's worse for me to be interrupted than anyone else, but that's what I believe. Just from observing how other people deal with being interrupted.
Yeah.
If I'm explaining something or telling someone a story or talking about a subject, it's, everyone forgets. Like walking into a room and forgetting why you came into the room. I just find it's so frustrating because the more you try and think about what you were talking about, the further away you get from it. And then even totally unrelated thoughts start coming into your head. Like I said earlier about something going past the window.
Yeah, any kind of distraction that comes into the frame.
Any distraction can be a much bigger distraction than the person distracting you might intend it to be, for example.
How does that affect you at work? Because as I mentioned, you might have, a large office with a lot of people talking. Open plan offices are quite popular. But then we've also got the working from home aspect where presumably there's more focus. How does it affect you, I guess, in general with work?
So, again, it's a very variable thing. I don't know if you've heard of hyperfocus, but hyperfocus is something that usually just automatically kicks in. I can't sit down and say, right, today I'm going to hyperfocus. Because if I sit down and say I'm going to hyperfocus, you can guarantee it will be the opposite. Hyperfocus usually kicks in for me on either something that I really, really want to get right or that really, really interests me. And I'm very lucky that in the work that I do, I really enjoy it. I would struggle more to kind of block out background noise and distractions if it was something that, like a chore that needed to get done, but I didn't particularly enjoy doing it. Having said that, if a thought could pop into my head or a colleague could remind me about something, I would then switch my focus to that and could quite easily forget what I was doing. For example, yesterday I was in a meeting in the office and I had to go downstairs to collect a parcel, and I came back upstairs, went and sat at my desk and started working. And I'd been there for about 2 minutes and I suddenly realised I was in a meeting. And I had to go back to the meeting just because I had this small distraction that had totally made me forget what I was actually in the middle of. So it can happen at any time. Most of the time it's not too much of a problem, but it's But the hyperfocus is potentially an advantage once you do get into it. Oh, I definitely think so. When I was at university, I was studying a subject I really enjoyed. When it came to essay writing or sitting in a lecture, it had my full attention because it's something that I really enjoyed. I was talking to any of my friends about it who weren't studying the same thing. I could quite easily bore them for the whole evening because it was almost an obsession. But equally, there were some subjects that I struggled with because they didn't have that same enjoyment.
So maybe someone who isn't neurodivergent, they would just have a more moderated experience, less focus in general, or less ability to hyperfocus, but then less distraction. So it's more sort of on a stable plane, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's again, I suppose it's probably as difficult for me to understand how the brain of a neurotypical person works as it is for somebody with a neurotypical brain to understand what it's like for a neurodivergent brain. That's something, again, I haven't really thought too much about, but maybe I need to start asking more people how their brain works.
It could probably help us all, and I guess that's why we're having conversations like this, to share the knowledge. And I suppose, so on the topic of sharing, so if you had to say one thing to someone who's recently been diagnosed with ADHD, something that might help them, what would that be?
I would say embrace it. Wear it with pride. You know, it's nothing to be ashamed of. You know, rightly or wrongly, I quite often think that the way my brain is wired is superior to neurotypicals. When I was younger, the label of ADHD was the naughty kid in the class who wouldn't stop messing about. And there was a lot of social stigma attached to the label of ADHD. I think now there is a lot more education around it. People know what it actually is, and it's just a different way of thinking. But when I got my diagnosis, I felt many emotions. One of them was relief. One of them was pride. You know, I thought, this is me. I now know why my brain works the way it works. There's nothing wrong with me. I just think differently. So for anyone who's been newly diagnosed, don't shy away from it. Don't hide it. Don't feel like you have to be embarrassed about it. So.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
And in terms of someone who might be considering going into care, or who might have just been put in the position, perhaps because of a family member needing more help, what would you say to them? Whether
you're considering going into caring as a career, or whether you've just been put in this situation fairly suddenly, everybody is different. There's no set way of being a carer. There's no right and wrong. And you just need to learn what the person needs, and they will, in turn, they'll learn how you can provide the help that they need. The whole thing is a learning experience for both of you. Anyone who either goes into a career as a carer, or anybody who is an unpaid carer. It's an amazing job that you do, that you have the opportunity to do. At times, I think it's probably appreciated far more than you realise it is.
By the person. That's great. So you're also a National Disability card holder, as well as working for the scheme. Tell us about some of the experiences that you've had with your card.
Yeah, of course. I'm a keen traveller when I get the opportunity, and one of the biggest things that I've found useful as somebody with invisible disabilities is when I'm travelling. When I was 12, I was diagnosed with scoliosis, and I've lived with the pain of that my whole life almost. But it's not visible. When you're travelling, when you're sightseeing, it's very difficult it was very difficult, and also you feel like you shouldn't have to explain to somebody why you need certain accommodations made. And also, certainly when I was a bit younger, or even now, if I explained that to somebody, they would think I was just trying to get to the front of the queue or something. But how the National Disability Card has helped me in the airport experience, you find that just wearing it, sometimes somebody will come and point you in the direction of the shorter queue, or sometimes you have to go up and make yourself known. I always find that they are extremely helpful just because you have this visual aid. It makes the whole experience a lot less stressful for me, because one of the biggest stresses for me when I'm travelling is, am I going to have somewhere to sit when I get to the airport, for example? Am I going to have to stand in this queue for an hour and just suffer through the pain? And I think that just takes a big part of the anxiety of travelling out of the equation for me. I recently had a weekend away to Paris. Many experiences actually from many of our cardholders that they'd been to the Eiffel Tower. Apart from my huge fear of heights, again, like the airport experience, I know the Eiffel Tower is arguably the most famous landmark in Paris.
Yeah.
And I just thought the queues are going to be horrendous. And that was one of the things that really put me off. So actually, our cardholders helped me to realise that was going to be possible for me. I just couldn't believe how easy it was actually when I got there. They were so helpful. I just found the accessibility office. There were a few people standing outside ready to help, and somebody, almost before I approached them, somebody took me and just led me to buy my ticket, led me to the lift. The whole experience was just so smooth, and as a bonus I got quite a good discount as well, so I think it was about €6 or something to go up, and the same for companion as well. So
that's great. Kudos to the Eiffel Tower for getting it right, it sounds like. Amazing. Well, and is there anything else you want to share? Any last thoughts?
I think during my time working for the National Disability and Carers Card Scheme, as a person with disabilities, as somebody who enjoys working with people with disabilities through my years as a carer, I think what we need to realise as a community is we're all here to help each other. You know, if you see somebody out there who needs a little bit of assistance, we all understand the struggles that everybody goes through. That's one of the reasons that I enjoy working at the National Disability and Carers Card Scheme, is because I can understand some of the struggles that some of our cardholders are facing every day, and I do my best to help them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, what you learnt from perhaps being a carer, that sort of patience and empathy, I'm sure very much carries through to what you do for the scheme.
Definitely.
And whether, I suppose that is the mission that everyone at the scheme is on, is to just help make daily life a bit easier and encourage the wider society to have a bit more patience and understanding to people in general, whether they have a card or not. But the card certainly can sort of shortcut perhaps some of that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Dom, for coming on and sharing your experiences. It's been a really nice conversation. I think a lot of people will find it very helpful. Thank you so much for watching to the end of this interview. If you found this valuable, please let us know in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to our channel so you can see more amazing interviews with interesting people about disability and caregiving. And for more information about the National Disability and Carers Card Scheme, you can go to our websites, disabilityid.co.uk and nationalcarerscard.org.uk. See you in the next interview.